This is a Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1. Seeking the best, being my best. Do do da 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 da. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best, best, best,
Welcome to Seeking the Best, the podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity, focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn Stelgis, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick Patika, our sound engineer, producer extraordinaire.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. I'm doing really great.
I didn't ask.
Oh,
no,
okay.
but I wanted to know.
Well, thank you for asking. No, I feel refreshed and ready to talk real estate.
Took a little dip.
I did take a dip in the pool.
It's summer in Florida, guys.
Right. We've now got into the 90s and the pool's hot enough to get into. Yep. So there's like this perfect...
And it's May, by the way, if you're listening to this in the future.
Oh, right.
It's early May.
Early May. But actually, this was not my first dip this season. I took a dip like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And it's because there's a fine balance between what the temperature is for a pool. And if you have a pool, you know what I'm talking about. You don't want it to be bath water, which was what will happen come like August.
Yes.
It will be like uncomfortable to even get into.
90-degree water, yeah.
And then unless it's just like a extra special day.
Like if it rained.
Right. And so there's this like small little window that it's like 85 degrees. At 86, and it's not hot water and it's not cold. Like you don't get chill bumps when you get in. And so you actually feel refreshed from the 90, what temperature is it today?
92.
The 92 degree humid probably feels like 100. So anyways, I feel refreshed and ready to talk real estate. All the things we love to talk about. So should we just get right into it?
Oh, you want to tell us something this week?
Well, yes, I have my stories.
Okay.
And this season, we decided to share some of those stories that basically had an impact on me. Not just a frustrating situation. Yeah. Not just that client was annoying. Like things that were lessons. Transformative situations.
To your career and to your outlook on what this career is.
Yeah. And there's been so many different things that have changed the way I look at things. And some of it is classes, but most of all the things we're talking about in this season are lessons that I learned through experience, through dealing with somebody else, whether it was team members or clients or just situations. Like spending too much money on leads and not having systems in place, which is what we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so these experiences that changed the way I do business and like continue to transform how I think about things.
Okay. Well, let's get into it then.
Okay.
All right. Great.
Christmas time is my favorite time of year. It's the weather has changed, and even though it's not freezing here in Florida, it's you finally can put on sweaters and boots, and it's just the energy that time of year is my favorite thing. And when I first started dating Patrick, I found out that his family had a big Christmas party every year that we were going to have to go to. But Christmas was also really big in my household, and so for many years, we would drive to Patrick's house, his family's house, and do Christmas Eve and have a big party. And they would put a big spread out when people would bring food and Christmas treats, and Christmas music's playing, and there's drinking and food, and it was a lot of fun. We would wake up the next morning and open our Christmas gifts and then hit the road and say goodbye to Christmas number one. And then we would go do it again all over at my mom's house. And we would drive probably 6.5, 7 hours to get to Panama City where my mom lived. And I always remember when we would arrive at her house, it was always like dark out by the time we were getting there. And I would open up the door and it would smell like, obviously like my house growing up, but it also always smelled like turkey because she was making our Christmas dinner. And it was always like really hot in there. I don't mean her house was always hot, but it was just really warm because it was cold outside. And so I just remember that like warm burst of air and turkey smell coming to me when I opened the door, and my mom was there to greet me and give me a hug. We would get there and then we would have our Christmas dinner and we would do Christmas with my family. And this one particular year, I had been in business a little while, but not that long. I wasn't brand new, maybe 5 or 6 years in. And I had a particular set of clients. It was a husband and wife that were selling their home, and we were under contract. We had gotten under contract maybe the beginning of December. And so everything was going well and on track and scheduled to close in January. At some point on Christmas Day, I was starting to receive phone calls from the seller, and we'll call him Milton. I called him back, and my mom had this, we lived in a ranch house growing up that was probably built in like 1970. And so at some point in the early 90s, they had put on an addition and a patio on the back that was made of those like little pea gravel rocks that were all like glued together or something. I don't know if that's how it was made, but it's really uncomfortable to walk around on in bare feet or socks. But I like to pace around while I'm on the phone. And so I remember just pacing around back and forth, talking to him, because what had happened was that he, out of the blue, decided that he wanted to close by the end of the year. So by December 31st. So as my mom's inside cooking a turkey dinner, and my brother is last minute wrapping gifts in his room because he waits till the last second to do everything. And the smells are filling the house and all of the excitement is building. I'm pacing around on this patio talking to Milton. And he wanted to move up the closing date. And of course, that's like 6 days before the end of the year. And I remember explaining to him that that's probably not possible. And he had started to get upset that he wanted this to happen. So I remember I actually had to call the title company and try to reach somebody that I knew at the title company. And I had to call the other agent, and I was bothering these other people because he was insistent that this closed by the end of the year. Or, you know, what happens sometimes when people get frustrated about what they want and it's not going their way, they get demanding and start threatening. Well, if it doesn't close by then I'm just not going to close. Those kinds of conversations start to happen. And so I went back and forth, and this continued on into the next day of trying to reach people and then calling him back and going over and over and over. And there was more to this transaction than, I don't want to get into all of the technical details and difficulties of closing out of the blue in 6 days over a holiday, but it wasn't like a simple deal. And everything had gone fine up to that point, but we still had several weeks to finish out some of the more complicated parts of the transaction. So I spent that Christmas just pacing on that patio outside, so, like getting really cold, but then also sweating because I'm just pacing back and forth. Meanwhile, my family was inside being neglected and ignored. And at the end of the day, like I love Christmas so much, and it put such a sour note on that Christmas, I really don't remember anything else besides pacing around on that patio for that Christmas. And so after Christmas, we get back to work. I ended up closing that deal on December 31st, got him what he wanted. But what I didn't know at that time was that that was actually going to be one of the last Christmases I got to spend with my mom. That I actually only had 3 left.
Yeah, I remember every detail of that Christmas. And that was a huge turning point and outlook of how and what your job entails and what you should and shouldn't be putting up with. You said Christmas. What not sure if it came across in the story is those phone calls that she was getting were during a 6-hour road trip on Christmas Day through the dark with 2 dogs in the back seat. I mean, as the phone just ringing over and over and over again. Like this guy had nothing else to do on Christmas Day but this, with no apology, no like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm putting you out. I know it's Christmas, but this is just total disregard. That's one thing. Number 2, because I'm pissed about this too. Still, number 2. That guy was one of these old guys who had a commercial real estate license in the 70s. And so you know how these guys are, and they know everything and that blah, blah, blah.
Well, that should have been my red flag.
Right.
Because I remember sitting at their kitchen table when I took the listing, and he wanted to mark up the entire listing agreement and misunderstood much of what it said because he thought that he had this experience, but it was like 30 years before that. Right. So it didn't really apply to residential real estate in that year. Yeah. Okay. And then number 3, when we got to Panama City, like Kat said, it took however many 6.5 hours to get there. So we luckily lose an hour in that. It's a different time. It's Florida. It's still a different time zone. So it gets kicked back an hour, but it's dinner time, right? Christmas Day, dinner time. And Kathryn's on the back porch in the dark, pacing around talking to this guy, right? Who's got nothing else to do, obviously. And then I don't think she made any calls that day because it was Christmas night, but the next day it was one of these, where Christmas was on a Tuesday or something like that. So she was on the phone. We stayed entire extra day. Yeah. Well, we were in Panama City. We didn't go home the next day. We stayed for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. She was on the phone every day while we were there all day long, trying to get a hold of the other agent. That agent was trying to get a hold of their buyer, getting hold of the title company, getting a hold of everybody that trying to set up between Christmas and New Year's when everybody is on vacation and taking off, right? Yeah. All for this guy who out of nowhere says, I want this done. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It was so out of the blue. And that's what, I think one of the reasons it stuck with me for so long was because it was just he was so upset about it, as if we had this conversation before. And I can assure you that we didn't. Now, maybe he just forgot, but I think I think he decided that would be beneficial for him and realized it, and then got frantic about it and didn't have any regard for anybody else's time and was going to make sure it happened. The idea that there was no apology. Yeah, well, that happens a lot. But I mean, so. Well, when I think back to it, it had a couple very impactful things about it. And one of them is about what we're talking about, where it was Christmas Day. And that guy had no problem ruining my day. Ruining your entire holiday. Yeah. To the point where I don't remember anything but just pacing around talking to this guy. And not the time that I spent with my family. Like, and so the biggest impact that it had there was around boundaries and expectation setting. And we talk a lot about expectation setting, but these are the places that this comes from.
Yeah. I think that 6-hour drive home was mostly spent having tough conversations with each other about what this job means and what you do and don't do for clients, and where the line gets drawn, and how do you draw that line before it gets to the point that you have to draw a line? How do you stop that from ever happening again? We can never, ever, no matter what, ever let anything like this happen again. How do you prevent it from happening where you're not feeling like you're taking something away from them? Right?
Yeah. You
can't all of a sudden be there, and then all of a sudden go to a client and go, well, I'm sorry, I'm just not, I will not be doing that today. Right? How do you set it up? So that was, I remember distinctly talking all of that out, and then, but we were pretty angry the whole drive home. So I know that there was some other just venting that was going on in there, but that was the beginning of this whole thing of, if you keep working your way backwards, this all comes down to boundaries and expectations. And if you put the right expectations in, I will not be available, period.
Yeah.
Then there would have been no phone call. So that's not about how do you tell somebody when they call you that you don't have time for them. You nip it before there's an opportunity for them to call.
So there's like, so this happened, and we started these conversations about this because, again, like being 5 or 6, I think, years in the business at that time, I was starting to see success and getting busy. And so it was becoming more and more of a thing where it was like, this is nonstop. This is all day, every day, if you let it. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't have to be.
It wasn't even about like, well, if I keep doing this, I won't have time to make my calls in the morning. It was more personal, and like, these people don't respect my time. They don't respect me. That I don't have time to do for my own self, for my own mental health. It wasn't really based around the business at first. Mm-hmm. I think that came later naturally, where it's like, oh, now I see if I use these kind of rules on stuff, then I can create my schedule and protect my business as well. But I think it started protecting yourself.
That was definitely the start of all of that thought process, was feeling like, God, I've just spent my entire Christmas dealing with real estate.
By the way, this was back when the market wasn't that great. Mm-hmm. And it's not like this guy, not that it would matter, but it's not like he was selling a $2 million house. It was, not where maybe you do a little bit more, you go and you open the door for the showings or whatever, the extras that you might do for a high priced home or whatever. This was just a nothing.
It was a very nice home, but I actually looked up the sales price just in the.
Oh, you did?
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Did houses used to sell for that? Because it was a nice house.
Yeah.
But this actually ties into another story that I wasn't even thinking about sharing, but it kind of coordinates, and I'll just make it kind of quick. So a couple years later from this, so this started that whole thought process around, how do I have more like me time with other people and be present, not just like attached to whoever else needs me. And a couple years later, I was selling a condo, and the other agent that on the other side disappeared completely.
You were the listing agent?
I was the listing agent. Okay. The other agent, like, I'm not exaggerating, he stopped responding. Like, nobody could get a hold of him. We had no idea what was going on. And
were you under contract?
We were under contract. That's a long story, but it was the condo that took the longest to sell.
I remember. Now
that's for another time.
Sold that one a couple times.
And we did, yeah. But we had no idea what happened to this guy. And due to the situation, I sort of took over and started helping the buyers make this happen so that they could close.
The buyers, not only could Kathryn not get a hold of the listing agent, but the buyers themselves couldn't get a hold
Nobody knew
of their
what
own
happened
agent.
to him.
And how did they reached out to you?
Well, so this is the part about, I'm not going to get in the weeds on this deal, but they were the tenants. This was my listing 5 years before that.
Right.
And it was a condo. It didn't sell. They moved in instead of buying it.
And then they were going to buy it.
And they were going to finally buy it.
Right.
We couldn't reach this guy though, because he was still going to be their buyer's agent and like close this deal that we'd been working on this whole time. Could not find him. So I ended up like helping them. And we finally did hear back from him. Like, I don't know how long it was, but long enough.
A couple weeks.
Long enough where it was like, what, is he okay? And come to find out, I mean, this is tragic, but come to find out his mother had been murdered.
Oh, Jesus.
And he had gone back home and to deal with all of that. And he just checked out.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was dealing with that situation, so this was a couple years after this first story that I told, thinking to myself, I never want to be in a position where I have my mom or somebody needs me and I don't have some sort of system in place and I have to just leave my business completely. But it was more about that I want to be able to be with somebody if they need me. Fast forward a year after that, and my mom got cancer.
Yeah.
And I had to go home every like other month. I was going home to visit with her
for a week at a time. Yeah.
And I only had one admin at the time, but I had people that helped me and got through that, and being able to leave and go be present with her and not have to worry about what's going on. Now, it's not a perfect system because I do remember being at the hospital and being on the phone talking to somebody too, but
it wasn't, you didn't have to check out.
I didn't have to check out, and I didn't have to feel like that was more important.
Right.
I had come to a realization after the Milton story that I'm going to set expectations with people around what my hours are. Probably somewhere in there, I started adding my phone message where if it's after this time, I'm not going to call you back until the next business day. I don't say it like that, but that's what it is. Now, if it's really an emergency, will I? Sure. If I'm not doing something else, that's more important. But
we've said a million times, there are no emergencies.
There aren't, but we did experience COVID where people's offers deadlines were like, you never knew when the offer was going to be due. And so there were moments where during that time where you felt like you had to drop everything. But I still think that in that time, like having boundaries and expectations set allowed me to tell people, I'll do that in the morning because the offer's not due until 1, and I'll get that to you before then.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding, first, I think understanding what's more important to you in your life. And recognizing that for the first time after that event, realizing that this isn't okay to live like this.
This is my business,
and
I can do whatever I want when I run this business. I can run it any way that I want to run it. And if I don't like that, then I'm going to say I don't like that, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But this idea of getting pushed around and yelled at and all of that because they're quote paying you is BS.
Yeah. Well, listen, they've hired you to take care of the sale, or they've hired you to help them find and negotiate an offer on a house. That's a job, that's a service, and it should fit within business hours, just like every other job in the world.
Yes.
And we do live in this society now where everybody's got everything at the touch of a fingertip, and response time, the expectations of response time is not realistic anymore. But I think that's where it's like first understanding that you are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to have these. It's your business. Make the decision of what's going to be important to you. What hours are you not available? And then when you set those, you have to express them. Well, that's the second part.
Part 2 that's so important. That's the beauty of owning your own business. Whatever boundary you want to set set it. I will not work on Wednesdays. Not acceptable. Does not happen. If that's what you want to do it. It's your business. That's the beauty of owning your own business. You get to create whatever boundary you want. The flip side of that is expectation setting. You can take every Wednesday off as long as all of your clients know the second they become your clients that Wednesdays are off limits. Well, if they all know that and that's a thing, no issue. The problem comes is when you have boundaries and you don't set the expectations properly. And now all of a sudden you're not available on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then they feel like you're taking something away from them and they get mad.
Well, and like, if you're going to do that, then, and this is something I'm still learning. When you set those kind of very strict, hard line in the sand, like I will not work this day, period, then you might not be able to work with some clients, and you're going to have to just be okay with that because you've made the decision. You've done a gut check and said, I need one day to just be present with whoever. And that's going to be this day. No excuses, no, nothing's going to get in the way of that. And then once you make that decision for you personally, then you explain it to the other person. And sometimes every now and then you're going to get somebody who that's not going to be okay with.
And you know what?
Don't say what.
Well, what I was going to say is dodged a bullet.
Well,
like a lot of times the people who won't budge at all, when you're very plain in your language of exactly what it is that you want and how you run your business, and they hold on to that, and that's going to be a problem for them, they're telling you right there that they're not flexible, that they don't respect your time. They're telling you everything, right? It's like the same as bringing somebody in for a buyer consultation and you're trying to get through all the process, but they won't go get pre-approved and they won't do this and they won't sign a buyer's agreement and they are telling you they have no loyalty to you. They do not respect what you do. You're dodging a bullet.
I agree 100%, but I actually even meant more like sometimes there are people who maybe the day you choose is the only day that they have off and they want to buy a house. And like sometimes they're going to just be a mismatch in your schedule and someone else's.
You just have to decide, is that one time a year that might happen worth your peace of mind?
Well, so here's something and that's why I said I'm still learning. Sometimes you maybe set an expectation or you think you did, and then realize a few months later that maybe you didn't. Maybe you forgot that part in the presentation that one time. Because I have somebody right now who apparently is only off on Sunday. And that's like the one day that I try to keep to myself. And I was like, how did I get here? So I've ended up showing some properties on Sundays in recent months and thinking like, did I not go over this? Because here's the thing. I don't want to do a takeaway if I didn't do the expectations, which is possible because we were right in the middle of that office move and I was at a different location. And like, it's possible that in my spiel, I missed something. I forgot to ask them a question. I forgot to tell them something. And at the same time, I've figured out ways around it, by giving them the times that I'm available.
Yeah, it's like everybody that you have up until this point, when you start to change something, they get it the old way. They're grandfathered in.
Yes, you've got there is sometimes when you make the decision, you're going to like have some people that are getting a different experience for a minute until you get this sorted out. And sometimes it can get a little confusing and you don't want to like take something away from one person.
And we're using this day off thing as a example of a thousand different things.
Some people just want to be home. When they get home, they want to turn off. They don't want to be having to respond to emails and return phone calls at 7, 8 o'clock at night. Whatever it is for you.
We don't show houses before noon.
Right. You want to keep your lead gen block completely tight.
This is how it worked into the business.
Yes.
For example. Right.
So that's lesson number 1 though, is really just like realizing that my life didn't have to be at everyone else's beck and call, that I got to choose how I spend my time. And so I started making boundaries.
You want to take a break?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break.
If you're enjoying this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in how you spend your time and energy, there are a few easy places to connect with us beyond the podcast.
Over on YouTube, you can find us at Seeking the Best Pod. We share full episodes of the show, short coaching clips, reviews of real estate products, and tips on building a real estate business that actually works in real life. We post videos on Thursday mornings.
Or find us on Instagram at On Seeking the Best. There we post behind the scene moments, short practical tips, and some of the real unfiltered stuff that doesn't always make it into the show.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the Candy Bag, where Kat posts more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes, head to onseekingthebest.com. You can learn more about us, buy some Seeking the Best merch, or send us a question that we'll answer on the show.
However you connect with us, thanks for being here and keep seeking your best.
And we're back.
So I wanted to just real quick wrap up that boundary thing because I was thinking about it and the break. And I think at the end of the day, we just all want to feel respected. And it really feels disrespectful when somebody's blowing up your phone on Christmas Day. And so, and it is, right? Like we can all just, I think we live in a society where we can all just kind of agree that it is disrespectful. And that might be an extreme example. But I do think we need to remember that just because somebody calls you at 7 o'clock or somebody texts you at 8 o'clock or they email you on a Sunday doesn't mean that that they're expecting your response. And
right.
we and this is that part about like I had to look inside and say, well, I created this environment, right? Like I didn't think that I was allowed to say no, or that I felt like I had to always just call people back regardless of the time and day, right? And so I realized, well, that's not the case. And then I changed the way I look at things and do things. But remember that a lot of times people are just doing it when it's convenient for them. And it doesn't mean that they're expecting you to respond. Now, it makes it a lot easier when you do set up the expectations, though, because then you've created a system in which you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to feel that burning desire to respond or to call back or to text back because you know that they know that you're not going to.
And especially if you can't, this is a little thing, but if you say, I don't text or I don't call back until the following day, if you text me after 6 o'clock, I'll get the message, but I won't respond until the next day. You can't text them after 6 o'clock for some other thing before that. You know what I mean? Or text them back at 7 o'clock, because if you do it once, you just broke your own rule. And now they think, well, those rules don't apply to me. Those apply to other clients.
Well, so here's the thing. It does take, I think, discipline because we're all attached to our cell phones and everything runs through there, that you might not have anything going on tonight. Maybe your family's out and you're all by yourself and you don't have anything going on.
So I'll just go ahead and text them back.
Exactly. It takes discipline to say, no, this is the time that I'm supposed to be relaxing, or this is the time I'm supposed to be cooking dinner for my family. Whatever it is that you've decided, like why it's important for you to stop at a certain time or why you want this day off, even if that day isn't what you plan, like your big dreams of having a relaxing day off, does not mean that you break the boundary with the clients, because then, yeah, you're just setting yourself up to be frustrated.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was lesson number 1. I learned a lot of things through that situation, really. But the second one that definitely comes to mind is to ask more questions. So, well, I think looking back on it, that Milton wanted he wanted to close by the end of the year because he had found out it was going to have some tax advantage. And I don't think that he knew that until that moment in time, but I don't know that for certain. And so I think about this kind of stuff like, did I ask enough questions in the listing consultation? Like now I have a pre-qualification script before a listing consultation. I have my script and dialogue that I go through during the listing consultation, and it's mostly questions about their motivation and timing. And a lot of that has been learned through classes and stuff too, but it's also through that experience of realizing like this was important to him, but I didn't know. And maybe I couldn't have figured it out because he just didn't know. But had I asked some more questions at the very beginning, maybe I could have realized that would have had a tax advantage, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a CPA. I'm not saying it's our job to know. I'm saying that understanding their timing and motivation are the two most important parts of selling someone's house.
Mm-hmm.
And
you maybe could have asked, when would you like, and if all things work out the way that you want them to, what would your ideal closing date be?
Yeah, exactly. And
if you would have said, I don't know, January sometime would be fine, and then all of a sudden you're getting the phone call, then you can easily flip that back around and say, I'm looking at the paperwork here. You said sometime in January. Why are we talking about closing before January? Why is this all of a sudden important to you? Or whatever. And at least be able to defend yourself. When you're getting attacked, it's like you can take as much as you feel like you deserve to take, because this is like I said before, this is your business. But if they're telling you things that are not what they've told you before, and all of a sudden there's a change in it, it's like there's only so much that you should be expected to put up with or deal with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, but so implementing some questions into your listing consultation, and like, here's the other key part that I've learned and through this lesson and many others is the system that makes it so that exactly what you just described is to write it down, to like have a form that gets filled out about those kinds of things. So while you're there with them, you're taking notes, and then you're going to have them sign off on it.
Yes. And now I just saw the other day, this is a free plug. There's this little thing called Pocket that is like an AI, like it's like looks like a credit card, and it's a microphone, has a microphone on it, and it doesn't record the information, but it takes AI notes and then organizes everything into PDF or spreadsheets or whatever it is that you want and stuff. And it will also go on the back of your phone. So it'll listen to both sides of the conversation that you're having on the phone and take notes of everything. Yep. So you can easily do that, take all those notes, have them sign off on those notes. And now once they've signed off on it, it's like it's super easy to just pull it up and said, this is what you said, this is what you signed.
So, and not in so many words, but
right. Yeah.
But
I mean, any longtime listener knows what I say out loud like this is always needs to be polished.
Well, I was going to say too, with that AI tool, I still feel like this is my disclaimer. Like, don't record people without them knowing. Like you told me about that little device, and I was like, it doesn't
record them. It takes notes. It's not you don't get a recording of the conversation. It's in real time. The AI is taking notes and putting stuff into. It's not recording the.
Isn't that the same? Oh, well,
I digress. I don't think it is.
Point being,
it's like having it's almost like having a third party on the line, like your admin, taking the notes during the conversation.
Well, but so the point of that though is that you would have, I think in today's modern age, there are so many tools that you have at your disposal.
I guess that's the point. No excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse for sit down and come up with some questions that are important for you to know so that you can best help those people. And it's not that I didn't, like, I'm certain even at that stage in my career that I asked them about timing, but it's how you ask questions. I've learned now over the years, again, through many, many training courses and reading books about questions that, the more open-ended they are, the more you can really understand and then diagnose the situation.
Well, isn't that like the whole thing, like you said before, and I don't remember what the percentage is, but like listing presentation is 10% presentation, 90% asking questions.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that exact percentage, but it's asking questions so that you get the biggest picture you can. And the way that you do that is to let them talk as much as possible, because they might say something in the conversation. Like, imagine if he would have said something about taxes or something, like, then it would have clued me in. But I know that I wasn't asking as many open-ended questions at that time in my career. And so that was one of those lessons of like, maybe I could have caught that. And even if I couldn't have, I still should ask more open-ended questions and make sure that before we start working with someone that we really understand their timing and motivation.
I think that was probably the beginning of that too.
Yeah.
Of like that same, yes, I do think that idea, and maybe we didn't have the words for it then, like, but it was like, I can picture you kind of thinking, sitting on the porch or whatever, and like, what could I have done different? Kathryn does do like a diagnosis kind of thing when things don't work out, like, and then say like, is this something that I made happen? Is there something that I can put in place? Like really kind of diagnosing the whole situation, and probably did come to that conclusion there that, well, if I would have asked more questions, maybe if I would have just asked, I would have known more about their motivation, and maybe this whole thing would have opened up, that I would have known that they wanted it closed. Or maybe he thought he told me, but he told his wife. Right. Or well,
so if you had this on a notes, whether it's using AI to take notes in the conversation and then having them sign off on it, or writing down in the meeting and having them sign off on it, but like getting them to acknowledge that what you heard was correct. That, so even if it was really open-ended, like let's just say somebody tells you, well, it doesn't really matter because I hear this stuff all the time. Like it doesn't really matter. I can close whenever. Okay. Well, what does that sound like? It sounds like they can close whenever. But then you get under contract and they're like, oh, hey, I'm going out of town for 2 weeks. Can we change the closing date? Okay. So that's, if you're listening and this sounds familiar,
it's because it happens all the time.
It's all the time. People are always going out of town or getting married or something, like at the exact moment they're supposed to be closing on a house.
We're going to Europe for 3 months. And it's like, what?
It happens all the time. And so even now, like when I go under contract, people get excited. Like if it's their listing, they get excited about an offer. And I'm sure, and I do too, like you outline the terms of the contract and the offer, and all they care about is probably price. I mean, I know that's not what everybody cares about, but for the most part, let's all agree that they're looking at the price. And so they go and they counter back on that. And then you come to an agreement and you sign off on it. And then a week in, they're like, oh, I can't close that day. I'll be gone. How do you prevent that from happening is to make sure to talk to them and have them actually look at a calendar and say, do you have anything going on this day? Would you be able to take this day off even?
Yeah, you can't really leave it up to them to come up with, because after building this guest house and having all these vendors come in, and then me putting together like a punch list, right? This needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed. That needs to be touched, all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden they show up. Not every time, but a lot of times I forget one of them. Right. And then I have to go back and go, oh yeah, also this needed to be done or whatever. Or I don't know what to ask. I don't know what information they might need. And so your buyers or your sellers don't know like that it's important that 2 months from now that is important. Or maybe they do know, but the list of other things that they want to have answers to, that one just slipped past them.
Well, what happens is that you don't necessarily know what you're going to be doing too. Like that from a seller or buyer perspective, you don't necessarily know what you're going to be doing in a month or 45 days. And so they'll say yes to it, but you can still narrow down, because I've had all the different reasons that we need to move a closing date. Oh, I can't take off work that day. I've got a big meeting. Okay. Sometimes that pops up and maybe they wouldn't have known about that in advance. But sometimes they're just like, well, I used up all my work days and I can't take off. And it's like, well, why did, what are we going to do about that? Like, you should have had this conversation. I'm going out of town. I'm getting married. Whatever the excuses are for why that needs to move or they can't do it. All of that could have happened before it was signed.
Yeah. Are there any days that you or the entire people that everybody who needs to sign is not going to be available in the next 3 months?
Yeah. And the other part of this is they don't know how much time it takes for buyers. They don't really realize that like you don't just get to pick whatever time. Like it's going to depend on me. It's going to depend on the title company. It's going to depend on the other party sometimes. And if you're doing financing, the lender might not be ready until the day before or something. And so I had this recently where a girl, she had to take the day off of work because it kept getting moved around. But again, she knew that she could if she needed to. She had already had that conversation with her boss that if it came to that, she could take the whole day off. Mm-hmm. It's just about asking questions and making sure that you can actually help them in that moment. Yeah. So lesson was ask more questions. And it was quite a few years after that I read this book, but there's the book, The Power of Questions. And again, I just kind of took the lesson and started thinking more about how to incorporate it into my business, and then started reading books. And so I remember reading that book, and it's powerful. I mean, it's about how important it is in order to be able to help somebody to just listen.
Yeah.
And not be talking the entire time and not telling them.
Selling them.
Yeah. If I tell you we're going to close on this day, you probably just say, okay, well, but can they?
Yeah.
Does that work best for them? What is their situation? So definitely lesson all around asking more questions. And so I said one of the lessons was boundaries and expectations, and lesson 2 is asking more questions. And lesson 3 is kind of, it ties into the boundaries and expectations part, but it's just like not letting those moments, like I still struggle with this, but those big important moments, like you've just got to, it's setting the boundary, but it's also just like being okay with turning it off. Like if it's Christmas, the phone is off. It doesn't matter if the phone is blowing up. I wouldn't even know because the phone is off.
Yeah. That sounds like me.
If like even up till last year, I was on 4th of July weekend doing something for someone that I now sort of regret because it's never really appreciated. Like you want to go.
Anybody who would ask you to do those things does not respect you. Therefore, will not appreciate you doing that for them. It's that they're telling you, I don't respect your time. I don't respect you. Go do all of this stuff for me. If you think you're going to get some sort of a thank you or some sort of future referral or anything, you're sorely mistaken. That's a certain type of person.
So my point in that though is like, the lesson number 3 is like simply turn it off when the important moments are there and just be okay with whatever's happening that you'll have to deal with the next day. Like just don't let those moments pass.
Yeah.
And so like looking back, I mean, it's been a long time now and so much has changed, and I do things so differently.
Microphone slip there.
I do things so differently now, but I still, even as I'm talking through this, I'm like, gosh, I should probably tighten this up. I should probably do this, because one of my biggest struggles, and probably some people will appreciate this, is that if you don't have something on your calendar, then it seems okay. Like if it's not a big important moment, right? Like don't let Christmas be interrupted by clients, right? Don't let 4th of July or Memorial Day or like these big like celebratory times that you're supposed to spend with friends and family, like don't let those get interrupted. That's easy to say as like a lesson I've learned through that experience. But it can be tricky to implement that when you don't have something specific on your calendar.
You mean for like a random day off? A
random day off, but also like even like Memorial Day weekend is coming up, by the way. Mm. We don't have any plans.
Right. Right.
But should I work on Memorial Day just because?
We don't have plans to go to the beach. So you might as well work.
Right.
Or be open to showing properties.
No, I am. I already did sign myself up for an open house on Saturday. But my point is.
But that was your choice to do that. That wasn't the seller saying, so we're going to have an open house on Saturday, correct?
Of course. And I guess that's one of the underlying lessons too.
You get to choose.
You get to choose. And it would be perfectly appropriate to say, no, I won't be able to do that. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
Or Easter weekend or whatever. And like learning that it's okay to say no sometimes.
Yeah.
When people ask you things that like they really shouldn't ask you. And I know we can all agree on that, but at the same time,
people will push, and not all people, but there's a certain type of person that will push and ask for things.
Well, here's what happens. They say to their partner or friend or whatever, like, gosh, I really want to go see this house. Just as an example. I really want to go see this house, but I know it's 4th of July. Maybe I'll just ask though. Should I just ask?
It doesn't hurt to ask.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
They might not be doing anything.
Right. Which may be true, but that doesn't mean that you just say yes to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you do that, the more nothing really seems to matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just a work day.
Yeah.
And that's not a life to live.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how you get burnout. That's how you start to hate what you're doing. Because you're not putting those boundaries on things. I kind of remember, I don't remember the exact story, but I remember you telling me about an agent. This was like probably around that same time. Somebody that you maybe took a class with or were watching them give a speech or something like that. And they were talking about when they have a listing appointment or a buyer appointment that they, just to kind of set the tone and expectation right at the beginning, say, well, this meeting we will find out. I forget exactly how it's worded, but on whether or not you want to work with me and that I want to work with you.
Oh yeah. That's a bold script.
And by you saying whether or not I want to work with you does not give them hand. It puts it in a situation where we are going to be doing this together.
Well,
and the person who goes, whoa, hold on a second. You can just let them walk right out of the office.
So let me say what it actually says.
Yeah, but I'm close.
It's close, but it's not whether I want to work with you or whether you want to work with me or if I want to work with you. It's we're going to sit down and discuss whether you choose to list your home with me and if I choose to take this listing.
Right. Okay.
That's the dialogue. And the point is that then you do have the opening to say, and the reason sometimes I choose not to is because, for example, somebody might want to overprice their home and that will cause it not to sell.
Right.
But the point is there are dialogues that's setting expectations.
Right.
That this is how this works. I'm a business professional. There are dialogues for setting boundaries. These are the hours that we answer the phone. These are the hours that we return emails and phone calls. Mm-hmm. Or like going out of town. Like I'll be out of the office for the holiday weekend during that time. Now I think like you have the expectation, the boundaries, and then have some sort of backup plan.
Yeah.
Don't leave people hanging like in that one instance where nobody could reach him. That's not good business. But it is your business and you get to choose. And so if you don't want to work Wednesdays, don't work Wednesdays. Don't take clients that expect you to work Wednesdays. Or if you do, have a backup plan for them.
Yeah.
It's really, it's simple. But it takes discipline for sure. Nothing is that easy in like day-to-day practice. But
right.
The more you put like an actual system in place where if you call my phone, you're going to get that message every time that's reminding you, I'm not going to call you back today. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, if I could go back in time and I was getting those calls on Christmas Day, I think I would just have ignored it. And because I don't know if I had, I don't know. I probably didn't have an autoresponder or what. No, I probably had an autoresponder.
I think you were still using your cell phone number too.
It was using, but yeah. Now I have like a phone system where you can set up different message boxes. You can have an auto reply to text messages, things like that to make sure people know. But
that guy wasn't using a cell phone. That guy had a landline.
But this is also, let's make this one more lesson and I'll make it brief, is like plan ahead. So those expectations, the boundaries, that all is great. But when there is something that's going to be maybe out of the ordinary, like a holiday weekend or something that you're really truly not going to respond, maybe for a couple days at a time, or something like bigger than a normal, here's the days here's the hours that I call you back.
Right.
like plan ahead and make sure that before you leave or out of town that you go through the people that you're working with and you see, like, you know what the status of all of that is, and that
Kathryn does this for every time, and we're just going to North Carolina and we have full self-service the entire time we're driving and once we're there, but she goes through every single client.
Well, act as if you won't be able to respond.
Right.
And prepare for that. So if I could go back in time, I would call him before I left for the holidays and like check in on the status, say, okay, great, we're still on track for closing on January, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I probably would have caught that before Christmas Day. Because here's what I can guarantee.
Or he would have said, okay, sounds good. And then what's he going to do? Call 2 days later on Christmas Day and say, I need to close before this?
Probably not.
No.
Because I would have set that expectation and boundary at that time.
Right.
But here's the other realistic thing is that I probably could have caught it because there's no way that he talked to a CPA on December 25th.
Correct.
Which means he knew about this beforehand.
Right.
Which makes it more rude. But point being, I maybe could have, if I had prepared for that trip a little bit better, could have handled it before I left.
Right.
And yeah, I think the biggest things are just preparing, choosing how you want your business and your life to be, then setting those boundaries, making clear expectations with people, and ask a million questions. You think you've asked enough questions? Ask more. They always say, like, go 3 deep.
Yeah.
With people, go 3 deep. It says, what would be an ideal time of year to sell your house?
January.
Hold on. Let me do the role play.
I was going to do it.
Okay, but I was going to make it more vague so that I could dig in.
Oh, okay.
But that's fine. January. Okay, great. Would that be like the beginning of January, the end of January, middle? Like, what are you thinking?
Ideally more towards the end of January.
Okay, like January 31st?
Yeah.
Okay. What's important to you about closing on January 31st?
I don't want it. We're going to be traveling through the beginning part of January.
Oh, okay. Got it. And then I'd probably be like, where are you going?
Right. Well, I mean,
because I'm just a human being.
And for how long?
Where are you going? Okay. And so if you told, like, let's just keep going for a second. Where are you going?
Oh, we'll be headed to North Carolina.
Okay. When you're in North Carolina, would you have access to email and phone if I did need to reach you?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. And would you be able to, let's assume this is a seller, if we did find the right buyer at the right price and they wanted to close sooner, would you be able to move sooner?
Yeah, I think so. I would just have to check with my wife first.
Okay, let's do that. Why isn't she at this listing appointment?
That's what I wanted you to say. but yes, people listening, you guys can see. You've got to kind of figure out, like.
Well, and then so what's the flip side? So I just asked you what would happen if it closed earlier. Then what's the flip side? Well, so what would happen if we could not find the right buyer for the right price by January 31st?
Well, we'd probably have to sit and discuss what our strategy is. Of
course. But I just mean, like, for you and your move.
Oh, we would still then we might have to pack our stuff out and move, and the house might be empty. Okay.
So you would still be moving to wherever you're going.
Yeah.
On January 31st, even if the house is not sold.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I would also know, like, are you using these funds to buy something else?
Right.
Like, how do I need to time it?
About asking all the questions rather than, you want to move, you want to list your house? Okay, cool.
Here, sign this.
Here's the
so you can sign in the yard, and then we get a contract. Cool. You like this price? Sign it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're laughing about it, but we've seen that enough times with enough people.
Well, I see it on the other side too.
Yeah.
And then that's
what I mean.
These are just a few things that have happened recently that I'm thinking about. So I'm just going to throw them out there for you guys. I've had recently some buyers and, I guess buyers, but it's happened on my listing and with buyers too. So questions that I'm going to be asking going forward. I've had where they had to physically be present to send the wire from their bank. So, like, they could not wire the funds from like an online service or remotely in any way. So
they had to be physically in the bank? Physically standing in the bank.
And it's happened several times, and it's been like smaller credit unions or like local banks. But what questions am I adding to my list of things? Is like about their bank, right? Like,
yeah, who is your lender? Like that kind of thing?
not lender. It's like who they actually bank with.
Oh, who their bank. Oh, okay. I see what you're
So, and setting the expectation that, hey, your bank, like, where are you going to be sending your wire from? What bank are you going to be sending your wire from? And if it's a bank I don't know the name of, I'm probably going to say, do you know what the policies are? Like, are you able to wire funds from online and
Right.
remotely? Because if not, if they want you to be there in person, we're going to need to write a longer escrow period than would normally be acceptable in a contract. So go find that out before we write this offer. Or if you find out during the escrow period that somebody had an issue getting their funds wired, then guess what's going to happen for the closing date? We're going to make sure that they're set up to be there in person to wire it in advance, or you move your money to a different bank account. But these are things like stuff happens. And when you see a pattern, you have to make a change. So it can be like really emotional, like that, you know, being bombarded on a Christmas day by a client, or it can be something simple and transactional, but you see it happen a few times and you're like, this is really starting to cause some issues for people. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I'm going to add in a question or add in a system step.
Yeah, it's smart.
Make it simple. Your best move that you can use, not a grind. It's a tip that saves you time. Your best move.
All right, it's time for this week's best move. One simple, smart thing to focus on this week. Not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps move your business forward. Oh, and by the way, the month of May, all of these best moves are all about open houses and leads. Okay. So this week, write a reusable post open house text.
What?
A post open house text.
Oh, a post like after the
Yes.
open house.
Yes.
So you're going to write a template
Yes.
for an open house text
Yep.
that you use right after the open house is complete.
Correct.
Okay. Maybe we'll reword that for the little graphic that I use, because I was like, what is this?
Okay. Oh yeah. When she says graphic, it's because we post all of this on Instagram. So go to find our Instagram page.
Yeah. It's
And-
On Seeking the Best.
Yeah.
What is it?
That's it.
Okay. On Seeking the
On
Best.
Seeking the Best. Yeah.
We do a lot of stuff on Instagram. And yeah, for this, I think the biggest key here is when you meet somebody, it's kind of like speed to the lead. Like if you have inbound leads coming to you, you should know that you need to call them right away. So
we use this as one of the open house goals in last week's best move and stuff. One of them is to text somebody right away.
Yeah.
Right as soon as the open house is over. So if you chose that one last week, now go ahead and.
So you wrote out a text, make it like fine tune it a little bit. Maybe use AI to help come up with like, how do you make it so that they want to respond? So
Can you have an open-ended question?
Right. Like what's the call to action? But in a text message, it's not like click here for more info.
Right.
It's a question.
Yeah.
What's a question you can ask somebody to get them to respond? Because what you're trying to do when you send that text message is get them into conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's where like a lot of misunderstandings happen, is that when you're at the open house, you're not there to get a client. If that were to happen, great. But that's not what you're there for. You're there to get contact information, build as much rapport as you can in that short period of time. And then right after, you're not trying to necessarily convert somebody on the first text message you send to them. That's very unlikely. You're just trying to get into conversation, make sure they remember who you are, and continue to build that rapport.
Okay.
So make a template, make it easy. I almost went into that whole little song.
Small wins. What do you mean, little song?
The little make it simple.
Small win.
Small win. I mean, we already said at the beginning that I took a little dip, but I really, that's my small win is that, well, no, I've got a better one. I wrote the last check for paying for stuff for the guest house. I hope. Well, hold on a second.
Fingers crossed.
To a vendor. There's
Right.
much more we still need to do, but this guest house is phase one is done for the most part.
Yeah.
Pat's still finishing the painting because the painter quit. But it's wonderful. And it's so nice to have that like weight lifted off my shoulder, that like everything's done and paid for and the permit is closed, because you guys, building something from scratch was like a second job for Patrick, but also I felt like I had a second job every time I had to sit down. Accounting. Like I have an accounting job every weekend that I did not really want.
Yeah, it was way a whole lot.
It was a lot.
It's a whole lot. Like you usually you hire a contractor to do it. They say it's going to cost this big lump sum.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can go that route and you give them the money, and then that gets done. Well, we didn't have a contractor, so it was every single different vendor coming back out, fixing this, fixing that, doing whatever, and it got confusing, and it was a lot of work.
It's worth it. I'm not complaining, but like I think that small win of like writing that final check, putting it in the envelope was like.
Yes, I mean that's your side, and my side was like when we knew that there was nobody else coming in our backyard.
Yes.
And stuff was awesome. And my small win is I started doing a little landscaping today. I went to Home Depot 7:30 this morning, got some plants. Well, it's the only time you can work outside because it's 90 degrees by noon. So, and pop them in the ground.
Looks
and
great.
We'll get started the beautification process around all of the dirt that's around this house. So hey guys, for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us any questions or anything else we mentioned today, you can find it all at onseekingthebest.com. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
Fall down, get back up, keep on reaching, don't give up, step by step, nothing less. This is how I seek the best.
This has been a Think, Live, Be production.